Before we begin, we'd love to know, where are you watching from? Please share your city in the comments below. This is a historic moment, and we want to know from which corners of the world you're witnessing what's happening in Jerusalem. The sun rises over Jerusalem's ancient stones. Thousands gather at the western wall, their faces illuminated by the golden light. Pilgrims from 70 nations stand shoulder to shoulder. The atmosphere pulses with anticipation. This is not merely another Yom Kippur. This is the Day of Atonement that the prophets spoke of, a day when ancient words meet present reality. The veil between heaven and earth grows thin. You can feel it in the air, electric, sacred, alive. Observers speak in hushed tones, aware they stand on holy ground. The morning breeze carries whispers of expectation. Families huddle together, passing down traditions in real time. Scholars clutch ancient texts, finding themselves within the very pages they've studied. The light catches the tears in an old man's eyes as he whispers, "In my lifetime, I see it." Hotel rooms throughout the city have been booked for months. Streets normally bustling with commerce now flow with pilgrimage. Security personnel stand watchful but reverent, sensing the significance beyond their duties. Birds circle the Temple Mount as if bearing witness. The very stones seem to hold their breath in anticipation of what comes next. Streets once filled with ordinary life now overflow with seekers. They've come from distant shores, from mountain villages and sprawling cities, each carrying prayers like precious cargo, each sensing that today marks something profound. Watch as they stream through the narrow passages of the old city. Their footsteps echo on stones that have witnessed millennia, the same pathways where prophets once walked, where kings proclaimed oracles from the Most High. History and prophecy converging in this exact moment. Children sit on parents' shoulders to glimpse the gathering multitude. Elderly pilgrims lean on walking sticks, determined to witness regardless of physical limitation. Journalists attempt to capture the indescribable for their audiences. But cameras cannot record the spiritual weight hovering over these ancient streets. Tour guides fall silent, their rehearsed speeches inadequate for this hour. Shopkeepers close their stores to join the throng. Christians who have studied prophecy for decades stand awestruck as pages become reality. Jewish families who have repeated "next year in Jerusalem" for generations realize this is that year, this is that Jerusalem. This is that moment when waiting transforms into witnessing. The stones beneath their feet have absorbed prayers for centuries. Today, those prayers find their answer. The appointed time approaches. The sun climbs higher. Scriptures written thousands of years ago predicted this gathering, not by coincidence, but by divine design. The ancient texts spoke of a time when the nations would turn their eyes to Jerusalem, when the mountain of the Lord's house would be established. This is that fulfillment, happening now, unfolding before our eyes, Scripture leaping from parchment to pavement. The book of Joel comes alive as multitudes gather in the valley of decision. Isaiah's vision materializes as people from all nations stream to Zion's hill. The words of Zechariah breathe as Jerusalem becomes the center of spiritual gravity. Rabbi Menachem Cohen, 94 years old, trembles as he reads from a tattered Torah scroll. "I have waited my entire life for this," he whispers. 4 generations of his family stand beside him. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, Bible scholar from Singapore, stands transfixed. "The chronologies align perfectly," she murmurs. "The timeline predicted in Daniel points precisely to this day." Military veterans who once fought for this land now stand as witnesses to its spiritual significance. Archaeologists who uncovered ancient shofars in Jerusalem digs watch as modern counterparts prepare to sound. The prophecies once sealed and mysterious now open before us, like scrolls unrolled in daylight. What was hidden becomes revealed. What was foretold becomes fulfilled. Listen to the languages blending in the square, dozens of tongues offering the same prayers. The prophecy of Zephaniah manifests, I will give to the peoples purified lips, that they may all call on the name of the Lord. It's happening now, not in some distant future, not in metaphorical realms, but here, on these stones. In this moment, the prophecies breathe and move among us. Their fulfillment no longer awaited but witnessed. African choirs sing ancient Hebrew melodies. Asian pilgrims recite psalms in their mother tongues. European families light memorial candles that flicker in Jerusalem's breeze. South Americans kneel in prayer circles, their passionate supplications rising like incense. North American rabbis and pastors stand side by side in unprecedented unity. Australian Aboriginals sound didgeridoos that harmonize mysteriously with the shofars. The Tower of Babel reversed, as languages unite rather than divide. A Russian Orthodox priest embraces an Ethiopian rabbi. A Brazilian pastor kneels beside a Korean elder. A Moroccan imam observes respectfully from nearby. I had to see this with my own eyes, says Maria Diaz, who traveled from Mexico City. My grandmother read these prophecies to me as a child. Now I stand where they become reality. The mingling voices create a symphony of fulfillment, a chorus of completion. The soundtrack of Scripture manifesting before our eyes. Elderly women press wrinkled hands against ancient walls. Young men bow their heads in reverence. Children absorb memories they will carry for decades. Rabbis in prayer shawls sway in rhythmic devotion. Christians clasp hands with Jews in unprecedented unity. Muslims observe with respectful distance. The divisions of man fade against the weight of this sacred hour. The prophet Joel foresaw this day. I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. An Israeli soldier stands guard with tears streaming beneath his helmet. A Palestinian shopkeeper closes his store to witness the moment. Former enemies find themselves shoulder to shoulder in reverent awe. Professor David Abramovich, historian at Hebrew University, documents everything with trembling hands. In 30 years of studying Second Temple period prophecies, I never thought I would see their modern fulfillment, he confesses. Teenage girls from a Jerusalem high school distribute water to the elderly. A group of monks who have taken vows of silence break them today to join in prayers. Rabbi Sarah Goldstein helps a blind Christian pilgrim navigate the crowded streets. Tell me everything you see, the woman asks. Everything, she emphasizes. I've waited my entire life to be here today. The artificial boundaries between denominations dissolve under the weight of divine presence. The categories created by theologians seem trivial now. The only distinction that matters, those who have eyes to see and those who do not. Then comes the sound that parts the veil of time. A shofar blast pierces the Jerusalem air, one long, unwavering note that seems to shake the very foundations. The ram's horn, instrument of jubilee and judgment, of covenant and call, one blast becomes many. From the Temple Mount to the Mount of Olives, from rooftops and courtyards, the sound that Abraham heard, that Joshua knew, that David played before the ark, connecting past, present, and future in one reverberating moment. Yoshua ben Levi, master shofar blower, who has practiced this art for 60 years, leads the call. His cheeks flush crimson with effort as he produces the longest, clearest tekiah gedola in living memory. The note seems to penetrate stone, flesh, and spirit equally. Then hundreds of shofars join in response, some ancient and yellowed with age, others newly carved for this occasion. Tourists who came for photography find themselves weeping inexplicably. Hardened journalists set down their cameras, overcome. The sound resonates at a frequency that seems to vibrate with the human soul. Physicists present notice instruments, registering anomalies. Something is happening beyond acoustics, Dr. Miriam Katz whispers. The shofar call transcends religious tradition to become something more primordial, more fundamental. The sound that called to Israel at Sinai, the sound that will herald the final redemption. For some, it awakens ancestral memory buried in DNA. For others, it stirs prophetic anticipation long dormant, but none remain unmoved by its otherworldly resonance. Remember what the prophets declared. Isaiah saw this day. Jeremiah wept for it. Ezekiel described it in vivid detail, the day when the shofar would sound and something would change in the spiritual atmosphere, when the veil between seen and unseen would momentarily part. Our ancestors waited for what we now witness. They prayed for what we experience. They wrote of what we see. The ancient and modern worlds touch in this sacred intersection of time. The prophets who were stoned and rejected are vindicated today. The scrolls preserved through persecution and exile find their purpose. Rabbi Moshe Levenstein reads from Ezekiel 37. Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the nations, wherever they have gone, and will gather them from every side and bring them into their own land. He looks up at the gathered multitudes, his voice breaking. We are that generation. We are that fulfillment. Hannah Rosenthal, Holocaust survivor who lost her entire family, watches with eyes that have seen humanity's darkest hour, now witnessing its most transcendent. From Auschwitz to this moment, she whispers, clutching a faded photograph of her parents. They always believed this day would come. The prophecies once read by candlelight in ghettos and catacombs now unfold in broad daylight. The words preserved at great cost, sometimes paid in blood, now yield their precious meaning. Even those without religious background sense the weight of history converging with destiny. The membrane between temporal and eternal grows transparent. Can you sense the weight of this moment? The spiritual gravity pulling at every soul present. Many fall to their knees without understanding why. Tears flow unbidden down weathered cheeks. Even the skeptics feel something shifting, something ancient awakening. The prophetic has become tangible. You can almost reach out and touch it. The air itself seems charged with presence, with purpose, with the breath of prophetic fulfillment that now exhales over Jerusalem's hills. Meteorologists note unusual atmospheric conditions. The barometric pressure is fluctuating in patterns we cannot explain, reports Dr. Abigail Steinman of the Jerusalem Weather Service. Physicists from Hebrew University document electromagnetic anomalies centered over the Temple Mount. We've never recorded readings like these, Professor Aaron Shavit admits. Those sensitive to spiritual realities describe layers of the veil parting, the space between worlds thinning. Prophetic intercessors who have prayed for this day for decades stand with arms outstretched, receiving the answer to long-offered prayers. It's heavier than I imagined, whispers Rebecca Zion, who has fasted and prayed for this moment for 30 years. The weight of glory is almost unbearable. Those with no religious background find themselves responding physically to something they cannot name. A journalist from a secular network drops her microphone, overcome. I came to report on an event, she says later. I did not expect to become part of it. The boundaries between observer and participant dissolve in the presence of the undeniable. What are we witnessing? More than ceremony, more than tradition. These are the signs that the prophets described, the aligning of heavenly bodies, the gathering of nations, the restoration of ancient patterns. Nothing happens in Jerusalem without meaning. No prayer rises without purpose. Every tear shed here is counted, every shofar blast recorded in realms beyond our seeing. The signs converge, not coincidentally, but providentially. Read the prophets again. They wrote of this precise moment. Astronomers note unusual stellar alignments visible over Jerusalem tonight. The astronomical configuration is identical to one described in ancient Hebrew texts, explains Dr. Daniel Roth of the Jerusalem Observatory. Geologists report subtle seismic activities, not dangerous, but significant. The Earth itself seems to be responding, Dr. Sarah Adamson notes. Sociologists marvel at the unprecedented gathering of diverse groups in peaceful assembly. This defies every predictive model of human behavior in the Middle East, admits Dr. Ibrahim al-Masri. Political analysts struggle to contextualize the event. This transcends geopolitics, comments United Nations observer Claudia Fernandez. Something is happening outside our traditional frameworks of understanding. For those with eyes to see, the signs are unmistakable. The cosmic, geological, sociological, and spiritual indicators align precisely with prophetic parameters. What was written in ancient scrolls materializes in measurable, observable phenomena. The prophets were not merely poets, but precise forecasters of this exact convergence. This is not the culmination. This is a continuation. A chapter, not the conclusion. The story unfolds according to an ancient script, written before time began. The prophets saw beyond this day, beyond this gathering. Their eyes pierced the veil of centuries yet to come. Today connects to tomorrow. This Yom Kippur links to prophecies still awaiting their moment. We stand in the middle of the story, between what was foretold and what remains to be revealed. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, addressing the gathering, reminds all present, we are not witnessing the end, but a pivotal middle. The prophetic timeline continues forward from this moment. Biblical chronologists note how precisely today's events align with ancient calendars. This is the exact day predicted in multiple prophetic systems, explains Professor Sarah Levine, expert in biblical chronology. But it points forward to future fulfillments with equal precision. The Yom Kippur Shofar serves as divine punctuation, not a period, but a semicolon, a significant pause within an ongoing narrative. Those gathered sense they participate in something larger than themselves, a cosmic story where today forms a critical but incomplete chapter. We are both recipients and transmitters, explains Rabbi David Wolper. We receive the fulfillment of past prophecy and transmit its continuation to future generations. Like climbers reaching a significant plateau only to see higher summits ahead, today's witnesses realize the journey of prophetic fulfillment continues beyond this sacred moment. The world watches. Satellite feeds broadcast these moments to distant continents. Millions view through screens what prophets saw through visions, from Tokyo to Toronto, from Sydney to São Paulo. The nations observe Jerusalem with bated breath. Some understand the significance, others simply sense something momentous. Global attention focuses on this single point of prophetic convergence, the eyes of humanity fixed on the city where heaven touches earth. News anchors struggle to maintain objectivity as emotions overtake them on live broadcasts. Social media platforms report unprecedented traffic as users share footage. This is the most watched live event in internet history, reports technology analyst Mei Wong. Viewing parties gather in living rooms across the globe. Churches and synagogues project the live stream for congregants. In Times Square, thousands stand motionless, watching massive screens in reverent silence. World leaders pause diplomatic meetings to witness the broadcast. History divides into before and after this moment, comments Secretary General Javier Rodriguez. Online forums fill with testimonies from viewers reporting supernatural experiences while watching from home. I smelled something like incense through my computer screen, writes a viewer from Australia. The shofar sounded in my headphones and my entire body began to tremble, reports another from Canada. The boundaries between physical presence and distant witness blur as the prophetic atmosphere extends globally through technology never imagined by the ancient seers, yet somehow encompassed in their expansive visions of all flesh, witnessing the day of the Lord. As the day wanes, the final shofar sounds, longer, deeper, more piercing than those before. It hangs in the air like a question and an answer simultaneously, the note that ends one chapter and begins another. The sound travels across valleys and mountaintops, across centuries and prophecies. When it fades, something has changed, not just in Jerusalem, not just in Israel, but in the spiritual fabric that connects all humanity. What was written is being fulfilled. What was prophesied is unfolding. And what comes next has already been recorded in ancient scrolls, awaiting its appointed time. As twilight bathes Jerusalem in golden light, the final Tekiah Gedolah begins. Yeshua ben Levi, his face now luminous with an otherworldly glow, draws breath deeper than seems humanly possible. The note that emerges transcends musicality to become pure spirit, sound transformed into presence. For 3 minutes and 33 seconds, he sustains the impossible note. Medical doctors present confirm no human should be able to maintain such breath control. This defies physiological explanation, whispers Dr. Elizabeth Wiseman. The sound penetrates stone, flesh, and spirit. It reaches places within the human soul long sealed and forgotten. When the note finally fades, silence descends more profound than any absence of sound. It is the silence of completion, of threshold crossed, of prophecy fulfilled and simultaneously initiated. In this sacred pause, many report hearing what can only be described as an answering echo, not from earth, but from somewhere beyond it. Heaven itself responded, testifies Rabbi Samuel Cohen, tears streaming freely. As stars appear over Jerusalem, no one rushes to leave. The moment stretches, precious and fleeting simultaneously. Tomorrow, the world will attempt to analyze, categorize, and explain. Tonight, explanation surrenders to experience. The prophets who saw this day across millennia of time are vindicated. Their words, preserved at such cost through centuries of exile and persecution, find their mark with supernatural precision. The crowds slowly disperse, yet they carry something with them that wasn't there before, a witness to prophecy fulfilled, a part in the continuing story. As twilight descends on Jerusalem's golden stones, one truth remains luminous. We have crossed a threshold in prophetic history. The Shofar of Yom Kippur 2025 has sounded. The ancient words live. The story continues, and those with eyes to see recognize this is just the beginning of what was written, just the first notes of a prophetic symphony that will resound until all is fulfilled. Families gather their belongings, reluctant to break the spell of this sacred day. Children ask questions that parents struggle to answer adequately. What happened today? They inquire innocently. Something we will tell your children about, comes the inadequate reply. Historians already prepare to document what many call the most significant spiritual event of the century. Theologians revise interpretations in light of witnessed fulfillment. Scientists collect data that defies conventional explanation. Pilgrims depart changed, marked by proximity to prophecy made manifest. Rabbi Isaac Goldberg summarizes the sentiment of many. For generations we read these words and wondered. Now we have seen, and our wondering has transformed to witness. As night fully embraces Jerusalem, the ancient city glows with an inner light that transcends electricity. Those with spiritual sensitivity report seeing manifestations that defy description, wheels within wheels, creatures with multiple faces, pillars of fire that don't consume. Others simply feel a peace passing understanding. As they return to homes and hotel rooms, all carry the same unspoken awareness. They have stood at a hinge point of history. They have witnessed prophecy leap from parchment to pavement, from ancient text to present tense, and nothing, not for them, not for Jerusalem, not for the watching world, will ever be the same again. The Shofar of Yom Kippur 2025 has sounded, and its echo will reverberate until all that is written finds its complete fulfillment.